Hey folks, what's up? This is Adam here, aka Cineguy. Welcome to the Movie Vault. Right, today's movie review is on a film that many of you are going to be surprised as to why I'm reviewing this. It is called The Tale of Little Pig Robinson, and you can watch this free on YouTube. Now, I don't usually review films like this, but this was a TV movie where I thought it had a nice charm to it. Okay, it's based on the book. And I've not read the book of The Tale of Little Pig Robinson. But one thing that I do remember is that when I was at school, we learned all about the story about the owl and the pussycat. You know, where they were going to get married. You know. Now, my mother introduced me to this movie. And she's no longer with us, God bless her soul. And although I think this movie has a nice charm to it, there's also a part of me that reminds me of my mother when I watch this film. And many people are going to find this movie silly. They're going to find it hilariously silly. Because basically it's about live actors dressed as animals and they can talk. Basically. But another reason why I like this film is the cast. It contains a lot of British actors, including Timothy Spall, who plays Little Pig Robinson. There was Bill Maynard, who played the ship's cook. He's no longer with us, but he's passed away. But he played Claude Greengrass in the British TV series Heartbeat and The Royals. It also stars Toyah Willcox as the ship's cat, you know, and I've met Toyah Willcox. And I even asked her a little question about this movie when I met her, about what was it like making the film. And she said she absolutely loved making the film, but the problem was it was the height of summer, and they was all out on the sea, and they was all getting seasick. But she says she really enjoyed making the film. Please look that up on my channel, it's there. The film also stars Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders and Thora Hird, you know. So it does have, you know, quite a memorable, famous cast in this. But basically, the film is like The Owl and the Pussycat, but retold again. Only that the pig is the main character, because they use the pig's ring from the nose as a wedding ring. You know, basically, that's what it's told in the book. And the, you know, you've heard like the tale of like, and the poem of the Owl and the Pussycat. The Owl and the Pussycat went to sea on a beautiful pea green boat. They took some honey wrapped up in a £5 note. And there in a wood, a piggy stood with a ring at the end of his nose, his nose, with a ring at the end of his nose. You know, I remember the poem perfectly clear back at school. We all did like a bit of a role play on it at primary school, and we all demonstrated it for the rest of the school. You know what I mean? Certain kids in the class would play the pussycat. Some people in the class would play the pig, and some would play the owl. Basically, who asks the cat to marry him. Basically, but in this, it mainly makes the pig the main character, Robinson. And he lives with his aunts, Aunt Dorcas and Aunt Porcus. And although he's a very helpful and very sweet individual who loves his aunts, likes to help out around the farm, the house, like feeding the chickens and doing the washing. The two aunts, one need to go to Stymouth, the local town, to pick up a shopping from the shopping list. And they're too fat for the style, so they can't fit through. Though Robinson is the only one capable of going to get the list of shopping. Now, they at first are a little bit reluctant about sending Robinson because he's not the most intelligent pig in the world. You know, he's like very forgetful, although he does remember some certain items on the list. And I remember it perfectly. Tea, wool, soap, cabbage seeds, needle and cotton, and one other item, but can't fully remember the full list. But even Robinson does a better job of remembering the list than me. You know what I mean? But they fear for his safety because in the town there's some ships of pirates. You know, and they're worried about Robinson's safety, especially the ship's cook, because it's coming up to the captain's birthday. And that's when they have a special feast, you know, of eating. And Robinson goes to, like, the Stymouth to, like, do the shopping. Like I say, he gets introduced to Thora Hird. and some other characters along the way. They're very talkative to Robinson and eager to help him. He collects certain items on the list, but then when he goes to look for some yeast, I think that was the one I was missing from the shopping list. When he goes looking for yeast for his aunts, that's when he bumps into Bill Maynard's character, the ship's cook. And the ship's cook basically tricks Robinson into believing that he's a friend of his, and he takes him on board the ship, where immediately he starts feeding him up on crumpets and muffins and cakes and all that in order for him to get very fat. Although Toy Wilcox's character, the cat, is trying to convince Robinson that they're enemies and to get him to get off the ship immediately, she doesn't have a chance to tell him because she fears for her safety of being thrown overboard. Well, anyhow, he's lured to the pirate ship, and the pirate ship sails away from Steinmouth, and he's taken out to sea, basically heading for the Seven Seas. You know, while all this is happening, his aunts are wondering where he is, and when they go to Steinmouth to try and locate Robinson's whereabouts, they do learn that he's been taken away for one purpose only. The pirates want to eat him, you know, for the captain's birthday, the equinox, which is the pirate's birthday and a day for a special feast. So they've got one intention in mind: to kidnap Robinson, make him overweight, so they can eat him for the special feast. And for the second half of the movie, it's basically Robinson bonding with the ship's cat, because the ship's cat is not only trying to befriend Robinson and trying to help him escape from the pirates, but she's also informed him that she's in love with a snowy owl, just like in the poem from the book. And she says she's going to sail around the world until she finds him, you know, because she's lovesick. Meanwhile, Robinson's putting on a lot of weight because the pirates are the ship's cook is feeding him on all these meals to try and make him really large. And when he comes to the realisation that the pirate people aren't his friends and that they're planning on eating him, of course he freaks out. But the cat does a deal with Robinson that if she rescues him, she can have the ring around his nose for a wedding ring. You know, when she meets the owl and they want to get married, basically, and pays him a shilling for it. And then he agrees. And meanwhile, the cat sabotages the other boats on the ship so they can't catch up with Robinson. She puts holes like this corkscrew holes in all these boats. So when the pirates chase after Robinson, when he's rowing away, they all sink. And then Robinson's on this tropical island, and he witnesses the owl and the pussycat coming to the island for them to get wedding, and then the credits roll. So it's a sweet little story, you know. But like I say, it's one of those films that reminds me a lot of my mother, because my mum used to laugh at the Robinson character, at the way he was being clumsy, not remembering the list properly, and she did laugh at it, and she did really. She liked Toy Wilcox as well, you know, because of the music. She used to enjoy music when she was younger. I really wish she could have been alive today, you know, so I could tell her that I've met Toy Wilcox, you know, because she was a very sweet lady. And like I say, I'm a big fan of the other cast members, like Timothy Spall. He's been in some British TV shows that I like. Bill Maynard especially, but like I say, he's passed away now. And like I say, he played Claude Greengrass in Heartbeat and the Royal. You know, like I said, there was Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French and Thora Hird. You know, loads of several other famous actors that a lot of people are going to be very familiar with. So basically, this story, The Tale of Little Pig Robinson, it's the Owl and the Pussycat poem retold, but just making Pig Robinson the main character. You know, and they come up with this story about him being on board this ship, you know, where he meets the pussycat, so she can tell her side of the story about meeting the snowy owl so they can get married, you know, basically. I mean, this film, I recommend it for all members of the family. You know, it's not everyone's cup of tea. I don't recommend it for an audience of people who are into full-grown actors dressed as animals talking. But if you're an animal lover, then you will like this film. You know, because it's live actors dressed as as pigs, ranches, bears, you know, they're all talking animals basically. And fair play, I think they did a really good job on the costumes as well, especially the Robinson character of the pig, the way it's designed, the ears, and you know, there's a scene where he's drinking a cup of tea, and he's using both hands like that, you know, to drink the mug of tea. So it was really well made together. The costume, the little pig cat costume, you know. I like some of the music in it. I like the song that Toy Wilcox sings. I'm a youthful lady. My troubles they are great. I'm all alone this board, this awful ship. My love is far away, and she's singing that song, you know, where she's lovesick and she's really depressed because she misses the love of her life, which is the snowy owl, and she's travelling all over the world, even if she has to travel on a board of people who mistreat her because they don't treat the cat very well. You know, she has to go hunting and fishing all by herself, and she's mistreated on the ship, and she hates it. But she's doing it all for the love of the snowy owl, basically. You know, so you can watch this for free on YouTube. It is on YouTube for free. I used to have this on VHS, and I remember when I was a toddler, I was always rewatching this because my mum would just, if I was acting up or when I was sad or I was like crying for whatever reason, usually most parents would sit their kids in front of the TV and put on a certain VHS video. But if I was acting up, or I was upset, or I needed cheering up, my mother would sit me down and put the Tale of Little Pig Robinson on. And she'd sit there with me and she'd giggle, she'd laugh. And just her affectionate smile, her laughter, her eyes brightening up and just laughing along with this strange film just makes it personally close to my heart because I do miss my mother. There's certain things in life that remind me of her, and this is one of them. A Tale of Little Pig Robinson was one of her favourite films. You know, she even loved the Owl and the Pussycat poem, and she used to sing it to herself occasionally when she was cooking in the kitchen. You know, plus she was a big fan of Toy Wilcox, so that was a bonus. Toy Wilcox played the ship's cat, and when I met Toy Wilcox, I even asked her about, like I said at the start of this movie review, when I asked her about what was it like working with Bill Maynard, what was it like working with Timothy Spall, and she was very talkative and she was very sweet to meet. Please check that in on my YouTube channel, Toy Wilcox, type in Toy Wilcox, and the video should come up with me meeting her and getting her autograph. So I'm glad to say that I met one cast member, because most of the cast members have passed away in this movie. I know Thora Hird is no longer with us, and Bill Maynard. Is Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders still alive? I believe they are. So is Timothy Spall. So there are some cast members in this that are still alive. But I'm going to wrap this YouTube video up now, this review, just to say, I do recommend it for members of the family, especially younger children. Like I say, it's a movie spin-off from the book. I'll just state a few things about it before I end this review, everybody. Yeah, it's children's literature based on the book Beatrix Potter. Beatrix Potter's the author. And I've not read the book because, like I say, I'm not much of a reader. But like I say, I got a lot of enjoyment out of this film. You know, many people would say that's unusual for me because I'm into horror movies and sick comedy and things like that. But you'd be surprised what certain films you hold close to your heart, and this is one of them to me. Although I've seen this movie countless times, I've seen this movie up to the point where I could play everybody's role and get it almost right. You know, loads of times I've seen this. But please check it out on YouTube. It's for free. And like I say, just let me know what you personally think about it. If you've got any questions or anything you want to ask, leave it in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. But thanks for checking out this review. Really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.